Hello class. Today in this video I'm going to review how to graph a linear function if you're given an equation. This video will be about if you're given the equation in y equals mx plus b form. So the first step is to plot the y-intercept. In the equation y equals mx plus b, the b is the spot where the y-intercept is. So in our sample equation y equals 2x minus 1, the y-intercept is here. Now some of you may be saying, well, this says plus b in the formula, and this is a minus 1. How do we work that out? Well, remember that when you are dealing with subtraction, you can always rewrite subtraction as addition of a negative number. So 2x plus negative 1 is the same as 2x minus 1. That puts it in a more familiar format for you, maybe plus b plus negative 1, and so that'll tell you that your y-intercept is negative 1. So on the graph, you plot negative 1. It's got to be on the y-axis because it is the y-intercept. All right, the next step is to use the slope to count up and over or down and over, depending on the direction of your slope. We have a positive slope here, 2x, positive 2x. Remember that any whole number can be rewritten as a fraction by just putting that whole number over 1. And if you put the 2 over 1, now you have a rise and you have a run. So this is going to tell you to go from your y-intercept, count up 2 because that's our rise number, and then count over 1 in a positive direction. We're going up because 2 is positive. We're going over to the right in a positive direction because 1 is positive. So I'll count up 2 and over 1. I really only need 2 dots, 2 points to make a line. I could connect those and draw the line. However, it might be nice to go up 2 and over another one, just to be sure that as you're lining your ruler up through these points, they're nice and straight. Also, if you have run out of room, like let's say our graph wasn't big enough to fit our up and over, maybe for example if we had started at a y-intercept way up here and we couldn't count up, remember that you can always add negative signs to both your rise and your run, because a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. So negative 2 over negative 1 equals 2 over 1, or positive 2. So if I had to, I could have gone down 2 for my negative 2 and over 1 to the left. That's a negative direction for my negative 1. And I would have put a point there. And as you can see, my line still would go right through these points. So I'm still keeping the positive slope to my line. It's always good to look before you even start plotting at what kind of slope you have, and some students even like to write it down so that they can remember, oh, my line should be slanting up because I have a positive slope. Yes, it's slanting up. Move on to the next problem. Here's one more example. I have a different equation here, y equals negative 3 halves x plus 1. So again, I'm going to start with the y-intercept, which is positive 1. So I'll count up 1 on the y-axis and plot my y-intercept. And then I'm going to use my slope to count up and over. So I have some options here. Negative 3 halves with the negative sign out in front, not really identifying with either the numerator or the denominator, means that I can have negative 3, meaning I would go down 3, and positive 2, meaning I'd go over 2 in a positive direction. So this would be like moving down 3 and 2 in a positive direction. I can also have 3 over negative 2, which would mean I move up 3 and I move to the left 2 in a negative direction. Either way, my slope is negative, and so I want to make sure that when I'm done graphing, my line is slanting down to the right, because that's what a negative line will look like. So I'm going to start here and go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 2 in a negative direction, so over to the left, 1, 2. I'll plot a point there. I could, like I said, also have gone down 3, 1, 2, 3. That's my negative, and then over 2 in a positive direction, 1, 2. And you'll see moving in either direction from my y-intercept will result in a line that has a negative slope. I am only sketching without a ruler because my other hand is holding my phone to videotape this, but you will, of course, use a ruler and make sure your line is nice and straight. Also, make sure it's nice and long. Remember, we're not connecting the dots like this, and we're not just like barely extending beyond them to put the arrow. We want our line nice and long so that eventually we can find places where they intersect with other lines. Okay, I hope this helped.